Welcome back to the 2020 Toronto Blue Jays Sim. I'm JayBlue of Blue Jays From Away. You can find me on Twitter at Jays From Away. Thanks to GM Games for hosting us here. And we're back with our sim. It is now August 31st. That's right, we're just about to open up the rosters on September 1st. But before we do that, we've got to go look back at our sim over the past couple of weeks, or the past week in this game. And it was a very good week, as you can see here, from August 24th to July 30th. We amassed 5 wins. Our first game was an 8-1 win over the Kansas City Royals. First game of a sweep of the Royals. And as you can see here, Joe Panic with a couple of hits in this one. Joe Panic 2 for 4, but Travis Shaw was the player of the game here. He went 4 for 5 with a home run and 2 RBI, 3 runs. Vladdy Guerrero Jr., 2 hits and 2 runs. And Bo Bichette, 3 hits and 2 RBI, 2 walks for Guerrero as well. So really overall good game for the offense here. Lourdes Gurriel with 3 hits and Caleb Joseph 2 hits to bring his batting average up to 200. On the mound, a nice surprise here from Tanner Roark. Just 1 run allowed on 4 hits and 3 strikeouts, and Wilmer Font with 2 innings to finish the game, 2 scoreless innings. And of course, Travis Shaw, our player of the game here. The next game was a 6-2 win, another strong pitching outing, and this one came from Anthony Kay. Kay with 7 strikeouts in 6 2/3 innings, 1 hit allowed, 3 walks, 1 run. Beautiful game. Shun Yamaguchi back up in the majors, doing Shun Yamaguchi things, giving up a home run. Rafael Dolis, good outing here for him, and Kay was our player of the game. Offensively, 2 for 3 for Danny Jansen. Jansen with a home run, sort of trying to revitalize his stock here. His batting average is up to 208 now. 2 for 3, 3 RBI, 1 hit for everybody else but Lourdes Gurriel with a double, 2 for 4. Vladdy Guerrero Jr., 43rd double of the season. Kevin Biggio also contributed with a double. And to finish that sweep of the Kansas City Royals, a 4-3 win, Vladdy Guerrero getting a 2-run home run for the Blue Jays. He was 1 for 5, but Travis Shaw, another multi-hit game, 3 for 4 with 2 doubles. And then Trent Thornton, a strong outing on the mound. He gave up a home run, but just 2 runs on 4 hits and 3 walks with 7 strikeouts. Wade Davis gave up another run, but it was Anthony Bass and Ken Giles following through, with Trent Thornton getting player of the game consideration. Now, we opened a series split of the Oakland A's at home with a 3-2 win in 12 innings. And the walk-off there was Bo Bichette with a single. Bo Bichette was 3 for 6 with 2 RBIs, including the game winner, and Randall Grichuk 2 for 5. Vladdy Guerrero hit his 29th home run of the year, going 1 for 4. On the mound, Nate Pearson, another just stellar performance here. He goes 6 scoreless innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. And if we take a look at Pearson, his stuff still has a little ways to go, so he could just be a monster. The movement's a little on the low side, but it's not so bad. And I think with that kind of stuff, he'll give up some home runs, but hopefully they won't do a lot of damage. And the fact that his control is in the green with a little bit more to go in terms of development, that means that he's probably not going to walk a ton of guys. And when a guy doesn't walk too many guys and strikes out a lot, if he gives up the occasional home run, it's not going to be with too many guys on base. So for the Blue Jays, he has 111 2/3 innings with 148 strikeouts. That's unbelievable. So Pearson is on his way to being just a dominant presence on the mound. And the next game was a 6-5 loss, giving up 3 runs in the top of the 9th to the A's. And that really put the nail in the coffin for the Blue Jays. Offensively, we had a couple hits from J.D. Martinez. We had a couple hits from Travis Shaw with another multi-hit game and another home run for Shaw. Santiago Espinal hit a double, and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. hit another double. It's his 34th of the season. And we also got another hit from Caleb Joseph, who's sort of at 195 now with his batting average. Chase Anderson, unfortunately, he went 4 2/3. He got hurt. And you can see here that Chase Anderson injured while pitching, Bo Bichette injured, and both of them, Anderson's gone for 2 more weeks, and Bichette is gone for 2 more weeks. So this is going to be a tough a tough little stretch for the Blue Jays without either Anderson or Bichette. Fortunately, the rosters do open up tomorrow, but we're going to have to take care of just the present roster movement. Wilmer Font here with 2 runs allowed, Anthony Bass a run allowed, Sean Reed Foley with a run allowed, and Shun Yamaguchi gets 1 out, but he doesn't give up any home runs, thankfully. In this next loss against the A's, again, they scored 2 runs in the 9th inning. It was the bullpen that really coughed things up. Offensively, just 4 hits here. Doubles from McKinney and a home run from Lourdes Gurriel. That's his 20th home run of the year, and that gives him 2 consecutive years with 20 home runs. Tanner Roark, another very, very strong outing here. 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 12 strikeouts against the A's in 7 1/3. But it was Jordan Romano who walked 3 and was the victim of the runs. I think Ken Giles had inherited runners on and gave them up, but that was the bullpen coughing this one up for the Blue Jays, but the offense really didn't do much, just scoring 1 run. And the final game of this series of this week is a 5-2 win against Oakland, and on the mound, Anthony Kay, he got hurt in this game too, injured, but he's okay. He's not going to miss any more time, but comes out giving up 2 runs in 2 2/3 innings, 3 strikeouts. But Shun Yamaguchi, 3 innings of no-hit ball, and the bullpen really came on strong in this one. 3 innings for Yamaguchi, 1 1/3 for Dolis, and 2 more no-hit innings for Anthony Bass. In fact, the only runners on was just that 1 walk by Yamaguchi, who also struck out 4. So Yamaguchi redeemed himself a little bit in this one. Now, on the offense, we had home runs from Caleb Joseph and Randall Grichuk with his 30th. That gives him 2 consecutive years of 30 home runs or more. And this season, he's done it in 20 fewer games. And then we get to Derek Fisher with 2 hits. And Grichuk also added a double, by the way. Kevin Biggio with a double and a single. And Lourdes Gurriel had hit that double and had 2 RBI in this one. Vladdy Guerrero 1 for 4 with a walk. JD Martinez walked twice, but he has not really been great since joining the Blue Jays. And the one thing that really kind of scares me about Martinez not being great since coming to the Blue Jays is that he may decide not to opt out of his contract and stay with the Blue Jays, costing us, $19 million for next season. Not that we don't have it, but I'd rather have somebody we don't have to pay quite as much, and maybe if he's not giving us great offense from Martinez, then hopefully we'll be able to find somebody who can do at least as well without costing us quite as much money. So we're going to take a look at our roster. So our active roster is at 25. I want to see our injured list. So we've put Anderson on the injured list. We've put Bichette on the injured list. And to take their spots, we have brought up Hyunjin Ryu from his rehab assignment. And we're going to put him there in the rotation. He'll be pitching tomorrow. I just want to make sure. So he's quite tired, so they'll probably skip him in the rotation to somebody who's got a little more juice in the tank, or go to one of our emergency starting pitchers like Yamaguchi, who has been starting in AAA, or Sean Reed Foley, and I'm just going to set him to be an emergency starter as well. Reed Foley looks like he is he's a little more rested. Yamaguchi is pretty tired. So Reed Foley is probably going to be the guy that may get that start after Thornton. Thornton is hell. He's the only one who's rested in our starting rotation, really. We may see guys get skipped in that rotation just because of the way it's working out with Ryu being tired coming back up. But what we have not done yet is we have not replaced our top of the order guy, our shortstop, everyday shortstop. We haven't replaced Bo Bichette. So we're going to go down to the minors and see who we want to replace him. Now, this is an interesting dilemma, because if we go here and look at our 40-man roster, we do have 1 spot available. And I think at this point, I may want to just go with somebody who is going to be able to join the 40-man roster in the offseason, who's going to be Rule 5 eligible. And that's a good question, because the Jays are going to have a bunch of guys. And infielders, if we look here in AAA, we have Andy Burns. And Andy Burns has that 35 contact, but he's also had a very solid season in Buffalo. We have Patrick Kivlahan, who can play the infield. He can play third base a little bit. He can play first base. He can play left and right field. Not the best, but these two guys, and Teoscar Hernandez can come back up. But again, I do want to have that extra infielder because we're going to be putting a lot of stress on guys like Joe Panik, who can't play shortstop. I mean, he was in spring training. He was definitely practicing and playing at shortstop in order to give him some reps to be sort of that primary backup. It looks like we have Santiago Espinal as really our only shortstop in on the 40-man roster. Kevin Biggio can't play shortstop at all. Lourdes Gurriel probably can, but you can see these numbers. We don't want to put that in the major league lineup. So really our only shortstop on the 40-man roster here is Santiago Espinal. We already have 5 outfielders, and I don't really want to go to another outfielder. Now, Burns can play shortstop, but not very well. He did play shortstop in the minors, but the game really doesn't see that. The other guy we could go to is Ruben Tejada, and Ruben Tejada, a little bit of a better shortstop rating. But again, if I can avoid calling up sort of a minor league veteran and get somebody on the 40-man roster that I would probably be putting on the 40-man anyway, then that would be good. Now, here's the issue. None of these guys in AA are really ready. Kevin Vicuña doesn't look ready. He does have better defense. He's a 55 at shortstop. If we look at someone like Kevin Smith, who is 45 at shortstop, 55 at third base, but again, his offensive development is not anywhere near where we want to see it. So really the only guy in AA that I would probably be putting on the 40-man roster in terms of a hitter is Alejandro Kirk. And of course, Kirk is a catcher, and he's not going to be able to play. And we also have 2 catchers on the roster. So my initial reaction, I'm going to go with Andy Burns because again, he's got the ability to play 3 infield positions. Burns can also play first base. He can play shortstop, second, third base. He can play left field as well. So Andy Burns has much more positional flexibility. And welcome to the majors, Andy Burns. So that's going to set the roster. I'm just going to make sure that Santiago Espinal is now playing shortstop. And Andy Burns is going to be our backup. And we'll do that for right-handed pitchers and left-handed pitchers. Andy Burns is also a right-handed hitter, so that and there's Burns, and Billy McKinney is going to be our backup outfielder for all 3 positions here. Billy McKinney, and I mean, if he was super hot, it might make the decision not to have JD Martinez in the lineup easier, but he's not, and I'm much more comfortable right now with Lourdes Gurriel in the lineup. And the last one is his left-handed pitcher with a DH, and we'll put Andy Burns as our backup. Now, our second baseman, Espinal was playing second base, so I'm going to go ahead and put Biggio back here at second base and Joe Panik here. All right, and that sets the lineup. We have our pitching rotation set. And hopefully we'll get some longer outings out of our starters as we go on, because these guys are starting to get tired. I think Wilmer Font, 81 innings already. That's quite a bit. And Ken Giles, not too bad. Jordan Romano's thrown quite a bit so far. Shun Yamaguchi's thrown quite a bit. And I think he has a little bit more stamina just because he's been a starter in the minor leagues. All right, so we are going to take a look at the minor leagues now. And it'll just be a quick tour of the minor leagues. Of course, it helps if I click the right button. So when we go down to the Buffalo Bisons, we can see that they are still awful. They did save it with 2 wins here in the at the end of the week to pull things out. You'll see we had a start in here from Hyunjin Ryu. Was not this one. Philippe Beaumont with not a bad start here. Reese McGuire hitting pretty well. That's a 3-for-5 game there with a double. Anthony Alford up to 215 with his batting average, so he's actually got it up to 216 by the end of the week. In fact, let's just take a look at what these guys have been doing. So Philippe Aumont, he's got his ERA down to 4.84. That's not too bad. 116 strikeouts in 113 innings, but 57 walks is on the high side. Ryan Baraki, since he's been in the minors, I do like the strikeout to walk ratio, but again, his movement is at a 40, and that's going to hurt him in the long run. James Dykstra has been okay as a starter. 288, 63. He's been back and forth between the rotation and the bullpen. And Thomas Pannone, solid numbers here in the strikeout to walk ratio, but again, his movement is so low, he's going to give up a ton of home runs. So you look at that, it's 20 in 120 innings. 1.5 home runs per 9 innings is anything over 1 is probably a little too much. Same thing with Jacob Wagaspak. He's got a 1.3 home run per 9 innings. In the bullpen, Ty Tice has been up and down. Danny Jimenez has given up a lot of runs, but he's got that 14.4 strikeout per 9 innings rate, 7.80 ERA, but 24 strikeouts and 13 walks. So if he gets those walks down, he's sort of fringy here on the movement and the control. So if he gets those walks down, it's going to be actually a much stronger profile for Jimenez and maybe worthy of a call-up. Jackson McClelland has walked more than he's struck out, which is really quite difficult to see. And we definitely want to see more from him. 29 walks, 16 strikeouts, not very pleasant to see. Julian Merriweather, lots of strikeouts, keeping those walks under control. He's probably ready to come up to the majors, but again, that 35 movement rating is something that I'm not really crazy about. Hector Perez has just been a walk machine, 20 walks in 22 2/3 innings. Jake Petrichka, he's solid. He's been in the majors, so solid pitcher. Taylor Saucedo, Kirby Sneed. Sneed hasn't done as well as I'd hoped. That walk rate is really high, but Saucedo's been okay. Curtis Taylor's been okay, especially since coming up from Double-A, where he was just dominant. TJ Zoik has kind of struggled a bit, while his ERA is fairly low. And the whip is okay at 135. He's striking out a decent number, but 27 walks, and he's got a home run per 9 ratio of 1.3, so that's a little high. On the offensive side, we've already looked at some of these guys, and Riley Adams has not been having a great season. Patrick Cantwell either. I mean, he's got a 19 OPS plus, but he's only played in 19 games with 9 starts. Reese McGuire, 54 OPS plus. Mitch Walding has had a nice season as kind of a veteran free agent addition to the Buffalo Bisons. Nash Knight, again, not doing a whole lot, but he's not playing a lot. Ruben Tejada's been all right. Jonathan Davis has been all right, but we'd like to see more from a guy who'd be pushing for a major league spot. Teoscar has been cold, but he's still hitting with a 114 OPS since joining the Bisons. He's probably going to be up once we open up the rosters again. And Anthony Alford is 76 OPS plus, but he's been much better lately. It's been, he was just awful at the start of the year. Roman Fields not really hitting a lot, but again, he's our 4th outfielder, really. And finally, Patrick Kivlahan. He's leading the team in home runs, 34. The batting average is a little low. And we're just going to update all lineups. We really don't have a shortstop, so we're probably going to move somebody up here from New Hampshire. And the guy I'd move up from New Hampshire is Kevin Vicuña, so we're going to promote him to Buffalo. And now we're going to have to do sort of a ripple effect. And right now, we have got so many guys here sort of underperforming. Kirk is doing well, but again, he's been slumping, and that OPS plus, which was once in the 130s, is now down to 118. Christian Williams has been hitting very well, thankfully. Logan Warmoth is a 54 OPS plus, which is really, really low. That's like almost half the OPS of the, it's like 50% lower, 46% lower than the league average. Kevin Smith has been okay. Josh Palacios has been our one bright spot. Vinny Capra has also kind of been okay. we're going to go down to Dunedin and we're going to figure out who do we want to promote. And, there's only one guy I can really see promoting. It's Samad Taylor. Samad Taylor's been outstanding in in Dunedin, so he's going to go up to New Hampshire. And I think we have enough guys. We've got a ton of third basemen here, and Otto Lopez can easily play second if he needs to. And Nick Podkol can also play second if he needs to. So I don't think we need to make of any further promotions here. In New Hampshire, or in Dunedin, we have, some decent seasons. Gabriel Moreno has had a solid season for the Blue Jays. Jake Brote has had a solid season for the Blue Jays. Both of these guys have 12 home runs. Jesus Lopez has been pretty good since coming up. 271, 328, 288. So he hasn't hit for a lot of power. Like, all of those numbers here are from Lansing. Those good 334 batting average, that's coming from Lansing. Otto Lopez, he's been a little bit under what we've expected from him. And Nick Podkol has been kind of about the same as Otto Lopez. A guy who's, not as well known. He is a draftee. Where's his history? I forget which round. 7th round. So he's a top 10 round guy, but he was a college guy. And he plays second base better than third, so he's going to be fine there. So we've got here Obeso, who's been okay. Chavez Young, who's had a solid season. A little bit better than last year. That's great. He's repeated the year, so you'd expect to see that. Reggie Pruitt has not been good. I think he had a decent start. And Griffin Conine has been one of the bigger disappointments. Just 4 home runs. He led the Midwest League last year in home runs. And we'll go to the Lansing Lugnuts. All right, and so the Lansing Lugnuts, offensively, they've had some interesting guys. I mean, if we look at Philip Clark started the season incredibly poorly, but he has just come on of late. And let's take a look at Philip, because he's got 2 multi-hit games in the last 3 multi-hit games in the last 5, and he's just having a tremendous season now that he's sort of come up from the Vancouver Canadians. He's hitting 314, 402, 412. A lot of singles, not a lot of power right now for Philip Clark, which is interesting because his home run power should be 40, and the guys who are currently 40 in A-ball should be producing a fairly decent number of home runs. If we look at our home run leader, Jordan Groshans, our current leader in that screen, he's got a 35 home run power with more potential, though. So that's the other thing, is that someone like Groshans has a lot more potential. So Groshans has been coming along lately. His line is not fantastic, but if we kind of break it down and look into his game log a little bit more, he's sort of slumping now because he's sort of peaked here at about 248 in his batting average, and that was earlier in the month. So he's been slumping a little bit, but he has hit for some power lately. And so it's great to see that Groshans, who's been hitting for, power, he's got a home run this week, but then not another home run for quite a while, and he had 2 back at the beginning of August. So he has been coming along, but he has also been slumping a little bit lately. So his batting average is down about 20 points from where it may have been earlier. Miguel Geraldo, since coming up from Vancouver, has been sort of holding his own a little bit, but again, that 69 OPS plus is not fantastic. DJ Neal on fire. He's got a 106 OPS plus. McGregory Contreras is our home run leader for the club, and he's at an 84 overall OPS, so OPS plus, so not fantastic either. Eric Rivera has been solid since he came up after starting in extended spring training, and Tanner Morris is really the guy who has been the best overall hitter. He's got 37 doubles, 329, 410, 483, so he's been sort of the best overall guy for the Lansing Lugnuts. We go down to the Vancouver Canadians, and we can see Scotty Bradley has been out of his mind. That's not .36, that's 1.036 for his OPS. He's got a .602 slugging percentage, 4 home runs, and he's only played 31 games for the Vancouver Canadians. So Scotty Bradley has been, out of his mind. But as you can see, you know, at least what our scout thinks, and our scout seems to have a high scouting accuracy for him, that, you know, there's not a lot more potential there. And that's kind of the big thing that we're looking at, is how is he setting up going forward? Well, I mean, Scotty may not do that much better when we go into when we put him into A-ball. Now, Nick Gonzalez, our first round pick in the draft, he's been downgraded a little bit by our scout, as our scouts have gotten a better look at him, but they still like what they see, especially with the bat. And he has been very strong here. 7 home runs, 327, 390, 482 for Gonzalez. Davis Schneider has been another guy who's been quite a nice surprise here in Vancouver. 8 home runs. This is his second shot at that level. He started here in 2019 and really got off to a slow start and was sent down to Bluefield and had a really, really strong year in Bluefield. Now, the other guy we're really watching is Orelvis Martinez, who has not really produced since being promoted. And it's interesting because it's kind of following the trend we saw in 2019, where guys would do really well in Bluefield, or the other way around. They'd really struggle in Vancouver, go down to Bluefield and do really well there. So we're kind of seeing that really interesting dynamic where Vancouver is showing to be a lot tougher on players, whether it's the offensive environment. It's a tough park to hit in. It's a tough park to hit balls out of in Nat Bailey Stadium. But it's also, you know, at sea level, the air is thicker than a little bit of altitude there in the Appalachian League, up in the Appalachian Mountains. And Justin Ammons has been okay. I think he really came along since I said that he was struggling a bit. So that's really what's going on with our guys here in Vancouver on the offensive side. We're going to take a look next week at our pitching. We only have about a week left in the season for these teams. We don't have a lot of teams threatening to go to the playoffs. So we'll look at pitching a little bit on the next episode. Now we have the Bluefield Blue Jays, and we have a couple of draftees, but a lot of these guys are players who have been with the Blue Jays for a little bit in terms of being in their minor league system. Our main catcher appears to be Jose Ferrer. Ferrer has been really strong, and so has Anthony Morales, who's actually in his second year in Bluefield. He was a non-drafted free agent signed by the Blue Jays in 2019, a catcher. Javier Dorazio, coming up from the Gulf Coast League, not doing all that well. But Ferrer has been a solid producer for Bluefield. Bobby Seymour, he's a draft pick this year. He's an 18th round pick, first baseman. Really, that's his only position. He's been producing, again, we can see a very fringy, when we see those yellow bars in that scouting report. Somewhat fringy, but, you know, at this level in rookie ball, he's been doing well. Jose Rivas, another guy, has been doing well. Not a ton of power for Rivas. Good average, good on base percentage, 420. I think that leads the team, other, you know, guys who are playing more frequently. But the ISO is not nearly as high as Bobby Seymour, who's got 10 home runs. Angel Camacho is our home run leader on the team. This is his second year in Bluefield, and he's going to move up next year easily. Again, very fringy in terms of his overall potential according to our scouts, but again, he's been our best offensive player overall. Josiah Miller is a guy we drafted this year. He was the 7th round pick, and he's a little banged up right now, back tightness. He's day to day, but he's also got 11 home runs, which is a nice thing to see from a newly drafted guy. He is 20, so he's right age for this level. And then we have here Nick Neal. Nick Neal is really putting on a show. He's got a 942 OPS, really tying for the team lead in home runs with 13. I think he's been really solid. Not a great defensive player, not great, you know, defensive potential here in the ratings, but, you know, if you play him enough, he'll probably get to be a serviceable outfielder. You can see he's got a low batting average, but that on base percentage and slugging percentage are really redeeming him. He started off, and this is why his numbers are so good overall. In 13 games, he hit 3 home runs, 3 doubles, 469 batting average. So he's doing okay here. He's got a 111 OPS plus in Bluefield, but a lot of his really high numbers that you see here in the overall screen, where he's, hitting for a 141 OPS. He's got a 942 OPS, 141 OPS plus. That's a lot of that is coming from his time in the Gulf Coast League. Another guy we're looking at here, Desan Brown. He's getting a little tired. Just another week to go, Desan. But he's been coming along a little bit lately, but he's not producing a lot of power. We didn't expect that. He's a pretty young guy. He's pretty raw. He came up through, Mississauga, or Oakville. I think he was born in Oakville. Yep, there it is, Oakville. And 80 speed. That's tremendous. He's about as fast as they get. Outfield range is 65, excellent outfield range. So he's a center fielder through and through. Having a solid year. Like, I'm very happy with this, even though the OPS plus is 72. Again, I'm not expecting him to hit for a lot of power, especially not yet. He's still 18. He was one of the younger guys in the draft last year, selected in the 3rd round by the Blue Jays. And I think he comes out of the Canadian Junior National Team program as well. And then we go down to the Dunedin Blue Jays, the GCL Blue Jays, where a lot of these guys are new draft picks, except for a lot of the Latin American guys who have been with the Blue Jays for a year or two before. Not a lot of guys are really doing offensively, doing well offensively, except for Michael Arias. Michael Arias has really been good. 354, 430, 524. He's just 18. Again, fringy type of potential here, but he's doing well, and it's good to see somebody do well in their first year in the GCL. Wyatt Langford here, he's a draft pick from this year, 31st round, but he did okay. I'm not that upset. He's got some potential. 3 home runs, decent overall slash line. Marcos de la Rosa was, again, he's not played much, so that 99 OPS plus, it's fine. Jose Izarra has gotten a fair bit of playing time, but hasn't hit well. Neither has Tommy Troy. Tommy Troy is a 10th round pick of this year. Some decent potential, again, fringy, but a 10th round pick, so it's not bad for what you'd expect from that, from somebody going in that round. But he's really been a liability on the field, a negative 1.2 WAR. His fielding stats, minus 3.5 Z, are at second base. 29 of his games have been at second base, so he's played a lot, but he's just been a bad fielder, not a good hitter either. Caden Grice, interesting guy. He hasn't hit well, but he was drafted kind of as a two-way player, and he was originally setting up as a two-way player, but we've decided that there's more offensive potential than there is pitching potential. If we go to his ratings, you can see that the pitching potential, it's meh, he can get to AA maybe, but he's got some real pop, and with a 50 eye and 45 contact, that probably gives him a little bit more potential to get to the major leagues. Trey Hondras has been okay. Again, a limited opportunity. Carson Wells he's a new draft pick this year. He's a 22nd round pick, but again, it's funny to see how guys adapt to their potential. Now, we see the scouting accuracy is very low, so that could change. OSA thinks a little bit better of him, and they have a low potential or low scouting accuracy. It probably means that he may actually be better, especially if he's doing extremely well at his first assignment. He's 19, just turned 19 in July, at the end of July, but if he's doing this well in his first assignment, I have kind of an inkling that because the scouting accuracy is low, there may be more out of him. Brandon Fields, he's another guy who has some potential, and OSA has average, and I think our scouts have a very high accuracy on him. So he's doing okay, but again, the contact ability and the contact potential is a little problematic. Now, I think I promoted, Jag Burden was injured, and so I'm not going to take a look at him. But here's a guy, Jean-Christophe Masson, a Quebec guy, drafted very, very young. I think he was still 16 when he was drafted. Now, the following year, this is his first professional action, and he's acquitted himself quite well for somebody so young. He just turned 18. So Jean-Christophe Masson is another guy we're watching, Canadian guy who, he's got some potential. Now we go down here to the Dominican Summer League. Victor Mesia was our main catcher, but Luis Bouillon was more of our main catcher. Neither guy has been doing very much. On the infield, if we look at our starters, Wilder Perez, 67 OPS plus. Angel del Rosario, 73 OPS plus, and Raquelvin de Castro, and the season is now over for the DSL, by the way. So Raquelvin de Castro finishes with a 118 OPS plus, 265, 361, 370 slash line. Defensively, de Castro, a plus 0.5. So, and 3.67 range factor. That's so pretty good stats here for De Castro. Now, we had him DHing mostly, and the reason is we wanted to get Estevan Machado more time. He's already got a 40 rating, and we're probably going to try to find him a spot as a shortstop in the future. But Machado, now he's got a 50 rating, so he's doing a little bit better, but he's got the more power potential. And if you look at his stats, very comparable to De Castro, except there's a little more power and much better walk rate. 271, so he's got less than a 20% strikeout rate and a very solid walk rate. And you can see there's a 130 point difference between the batting average and OBP. More extra base hits for Machado. And so that's something that we really want to see. I think there's more power potential, although De Castro's contact rating is still quite good at, I think, 60 for potential. And then, of course, the other guy, here's another guy who looks interesting, is Robert Robertus. He got a fairly big signing bonus last year in the July 2nd date. But he hasn't played all that much. But I think he may move up to the Gulf Coast League next year, but his potential stats don't really reflect a lot. And then, of course, the other guy that we're really interested in is Alfredo Chacon. We gave him, $5 million to sign with us, and we basically started him playing right away. And that's kind of the thing that you can do in this game in OOTP that is not realistic at all. You can start in the Dominican Summer League or whatever league you want, really. You can start international free agents the year that they sign. Normally, you can't do that. So Alfredo Chacon, 300 batting average in his first year. Now, we may leave him here another year. We may move him up for his age 17 year in the Gulf Coast League. We're going to have to see, but he's one of the guys who sort of we have our eye on. And so that's our tour through the minor leagues, through the basically hitting side of the minor leagues. Overall, we had a very solid week. We are now in, let's see. So the Houston Astros are up in the wild card, and I just want to take a look at the full standings. So here we have Oakland is up by half a game on Houston. So in the wild card, it's Houston, and then New York and Cleveland are tied for the second wild card spot, and we're just 2.5 games behind. So not doing too badly. We are in contention. And if we have a strong September, we might be able to sneak into that second wild card. We're not sure. I'm not really expecting it, and especially with those injuries to Chase Anderson and Bo Bichette, I'm not going to count on it. But we can have a decent season. We're well on our way to, play close to 500 ball, like a goal from our GM or from our owner. Upgraded catcher, unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that. Build a top 6 minor league, and we're 13th. We do have 4 years to do that. And then keep building the team to reach the playoffs by 2025. Again, that's a long-term project, but this one, if you have been watching, I think we were as high as 4th, but that was still when Nate Pearson had prospect status. Now that he's kind of graduated from being a prospect, we had a pretty big drop-off to 13th in the majors. And so that's this week. Thanks to GM Games for hosting us. I'm JayBlue of Blue Jays from Away. You can find me on Twitter at JaysFromAway and on the internet at www.bluejaysfromaway.com. Thanks for joining us. Come back next time.